The ski, as the ranchers would say. So, yeah, so thank God the weather, the gods have been shining on us tonight, and we have a nice bit of weather for a change. So, yeah, so we're going to start here, as we see, at the ranch, and Seamus Fleming, one of the residents of 3 generations, is going to give us a nice little talk.
5 generations.
5 generations. My apologies to you. Okay, so as we say, this is the ranch, and we're going to follow this walking trail pretty roughly around up the road and visit the schools. Hello?
Modern technology, right?
Yeah. Brand new full size view. If you're going to fight, I don't imagine you ever imagine living with the second son was from
survey map you can get online. There's a wall here now covered with ivy, and it comes around here in an L shape. It stops here. Okay, there's an old stone wall, and that wall is probably about 400 years old. And before these houses were built, there was a tavern here, a drinking inn, back in the 1700s. And the landlord who owned the tavern was called Carey, and he used to inform the redcoats at the time on the Irish rebels. Now, the only evidence that's still left is, you can see it on the oldest Ordnance survey map. Over there you have a big monkey puzzle tree, and underneath that tree there's an old well. That well still exists, and the old well is part of the old drinking tavern that was on this site. So Carey, I don't know whatever happened to him, but he used to inform on the Irish Rebels. But anyway, I think he met his end somewhere along the line.
Yeah, he got his comeuppance.
Anyway, those 4 terrace houses weren't built together. The 2 middle ones were built in 1869 and are late Victorian. There used to be an old whiskey distillery in Chapel Lizard, and the whiskey distillery built on the 2 end houses in 1890. And whoever the customs and excise officers, it was a fairly good job at the time. If you had a job like that, you'd be kind of in the executive bracket. They were given the house as part of the job. So number 4, where I live, in 1915, 1916, during the war of the Easter Rising, the excise officer that lived in that house was Flann O'Brien's father, and they've done a book on the houses of Flann O'Brien. Now, Flann O'Brien lived in that house when he was 5 years of age, and when his father moved to Black Rock, to Avoca Road in Black Rock, he moved out of there in 1921. That was probably during the Civil War. But you know, Flann O'Brien is probably one of the best Irish authors. He's also known as Miles McLaughlin, and he's various other names as well. But in 1921, a Customs and Excise officer replaced him, and he was a Scottish man. And he was called Morris Walsh, and he was also an author. And he's a famous author because the book he wrote in number 4, they made a Hollywood movie out of the book. And everybody should know this movie. It's called The Quiet Man.
Yeah,
With John Wayne.
John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara.
Yes, exactly. So the house next door, which is number 3, a lady lived there around 1916, and she was from West Cork, and her name was Sarah O'Donovan. And it so happened her maiden name was Collins. So it so happened that her nephew was Michael Collins. And Michael Collins at the time was in prison in England, and then after that he was the most wanted man in Europe by the Brits. So he had a great hobby at the time. He was a dog breeder, and he used to breed Kerry Blues. And he called one of his Kerry Blues after a prison, after the number of his prison cell in England. I have to read it here somewhere. Should have it here. Better get my glasses. It says here, Mr. Francis McCabe owns 3 of the 4 houses. Okay, that's me. He took time to explain that number 1, okay, blah, blah, skip that. Number 2, oh, skip this bit here. Okay. Okay. Michael Collins had paid clandestine visits to number 3, where the big fellow, or the big fellow's aunt, kennelled Kerry Blue Terriers behind the house. The big fellow owned the Kerry Blue called Convict 224, and he tried to have the breed made a national dog of Ireland. 224, yeah. But anyway, Collins was a regular visitor to this house, number 3. Because he was breeding his dogs, Now, I don't know, a lot of people might have seen the Hollywood movie. You know, Michael Collins. But he was a regular visitor, I say at least weekly, to come up and take his dogs for a walk down by the River Liffey. And nobody knew who he was, because I heard one incident where he was sitting in his auntie's living room reading the newspaper, and the Black and Tans came in the front door and they went out the back door. And he said good morning to them as they passed by.
I didn't know who he was.
They didn't know who he was.
He used to go through.
That school opened up. Sorry, the 6th of January 1952, that school opened up there. Then we decided to get the nuns out. Now, the nuns used the top in 1953. They used the top of that school for the young kids that was making their communion and so on, so that they transferred into that school. But they had to use the top, rented it from the De La Salle brothers. So in 1954, the Dominican, this school opened here. And again, there was over 1,500 students in this school at one time. There's the Rocky Road to Dublin, it's on the internet. If you look at that, this place used to, 9 o'clock, maybe 12 o'clock, I can't remember the lunch times now. This place was swarming with kids all over it. Traffic and all couldn't get by. When they run out, we run that. And the Rocky Road to Dublin shows it very well with all the children running on this road, you know. Paddy Crosby, by the way, came out here in 1958 to do the school around the corner. And there was a man on it, he was only 6 years old, I think, Thomas Walsh. And he could man the road in the street. And what did you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a musician, so he kept saying, you know. And it's a great link, and Thomas has that link now, and it's great to look back on that, you know. But yeah, the nuns came here, then in 1954 they moved into their convent down the back here. Now, they were in enclosed order at that time, and the kids were making their communion, or especially communion. They couldn't walk across to the church with them. They were all enclosed. And when you come out, this I think this could have been the first cinema, apart from the Oriole. Maybe someone will correct me on this, but I think this was the first cinema the brothers ran here. And they used to run it on it. Am I right, Jackie? Yeah, it was the first, wasn't it? Yeah. And
I saw the Wizard of Oz there.
the Wizard of Oz. There you are. So it was the first cinema.
It's around 1950, 51.
Yeah, fair play to you. Yeah.
Yeah, see the Vikings with Kirk Douglas.
Pardon?
The Vikings with Kirk Douglas.
Have we got the
That's why they built these in the castle with some so they got all the fences around the city protecting from these people, and with tools